Hello, and welcome to the Eleemosynary Moment. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Brad Hathcock. Welcome back. Long time off.
It's getting
I
hard.
know. I
We're
know.
doing our
August
best.
August was like the worst month in quite a long time. But here we are, second week of September. It's been
Yeah,
at least 6 weeks, right? Since our last podcast, I
oh,
think.
I hope not. That's
I think it
unfortunate.
has been, yeah.
Well, I fucking hate summer, and I'm glad it's almost over, because I'm over it.
Who
Brad,
isn't?
tell me what movie phone is, because we were talking before the
Yes.
podcast.
So just before we started, I welcomed Aaron onto the podcast by saying hello and welcome to Movie Phone, and he's not sure what that is. So back through, I guess, the '90s and early 2000s, you would dial 222 film, and you would get at your like local or regional movie theaters the show times for movies, and you couldn't like it evolved over time. Like before, you used to just have to like sit through a list. Like I guess you would put in like your zip code or something, and you would sit through a list of like all of the movie theaters and times. But then as it got, I guess, a little bit more advanced, you would put in like the first three letters or something of the movie theater that you wanted to go to, and then they would say, "Oh, did you mean some whatever movie theater in the Philadelphia area or whatever?" And then it would list for you all of the movies and showtimes. Uh, this is obviously like like I don't want to say pre-internet because the internet was around, but it was definitely not prevalent for searching for movies. And so you used to call 222 film. I guess that wasn't a national thing then.
No, first time I'm hearing about it, but it does remind me of, you know, TV guides and like the fact that you had to go buy a book at the store so you could find out what the fuck the Cosby Show was coming on or
Yep.
whatever sports team was
Or
playing
read the
and
newspaper, like the paper
or
that you'd
read the
get delivered to your
newspaper.
house.
Yeah, I mean, boy, every year that goes by, I look back at some of that stuff and it's like we've come a really long way. Especially because I was looking at a video of the Samsung Galaxy foldable phone, and like that's come a long way as well. And I was thinking back to that first iPhone, and there's that video of Steve Jobs going like, "What do we do with all the buttons? We'll just get rid of them." And it's just like the one screen, on the iPhone. That
Well,
wasn't that
that
long
like
ago,
killed
but
BlackBerry, like being able to get rid like BlackBerry was the motherfucker of cell phones back then. And then, it was like one of the first to actually have internet on it, but it was like a web browser. um and then that kind of ended up killing BlackBerry to an extent. I mean, it still exists, obviously, but it's not nearly at the forefront of cell phones. But how funny it is that we kind of did away with the flip phone just for it to kind of come back, just so that it can provide a bigger screen, but
and
still
that's exactly
maintain
what
a
they are.
smaller phone. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they're badass. I think they're really cool. It's just crazy because like you think about that period before the iPhone, which was like 2008 or whatever. I mean, that felt like modern times, but like it wasn't. There wasn't a device like that. You couldn't pull up an app on your phone, and so you go back to like the TV guide and stuff. You're just like, there are these things that happen, and you just kind of live through them, so you don't really think about it. Looking back, though, I mean, what would we do without smartphones now? I don't even know.
Oh, I mean, I didn't have a smartphone until, I don't know, probably 20, I want to say like 2010, something like that. I don't really have a smartphone. I had a flip phone, or I had one of those ones that like flipped open like sideways, I guess, and
Uh
revealed a
huh.
keyboard underneath.
I had one
It
too.
wasn't a kick. Like they had the kick thing, which was separate from I think your phone. It was just for like texting and internet or something like that. But then they just made a cell phone where it would like flip open or slide open for you to send texts. I think it was Nokia based. Um, and I mean, god damn, that phone was good. I enjoyed that. I had that a lot. They were old school, and now it's just like we're going back into that. What's old is new again, I guess.
Well, it's cool because it does double the screen, and it's got screens on screens. I was reaching over to my shelf because I have the Nokia Engage, I'm going to put
Oh,
that into the
nice.
camera.
I've
And
never
this
even
was in,
seen that.
yeah, this is interesting because this was going to be, it was a gaming kind of console, like a handheld, and then it also doubled as a phone, so you'd hold it like this, talk on it. It's so stupid, and I don't think much came of it, but yeah, the Nokia N-Gage, man.
Well, it's funny to think actually, like, think of obviously what Samsung has done and what Apple has done in the phone space. They also make so many phones that just never really went anywhere. Like Microsoft did their version of a smartphone. That's where they actually came up with like the tile idea for all of the new Windows programs because people did like the tile portion of
I
that.
did, yeah.
I had a Windows phone. It was great.
Me too.
I actually really enjoyed it. It was easy to sync up with like all the laptops that you have and stuff. If you weren't like an Apple person, and at that time I was not, and I know you aren't, but not necessarily at least. And that was kind of innovative to me. But I will say I'm very physically hard on a phone, so I ended up like breaking the battery out of that one somehow, and it just wasn't. They kind of did away with them, so I couldn't get a new one, and I ended up switching to an iPhone. I think after that, um, but that was a good phone. I know there was like one of these really good camera companies developed a phone, and it was really cool in its concept, but I don't think it ever took off. But it had an insane camera on it, like way better than anything that you can get. And then it's obviously a phone, but it had all these like interchangeable pieces that you could put onto it
Hmm.
and stuff, which, they do that a lot now with like phone cases. But this was like for the actual phone, and you could put what you could put like different what are they
Lenses.
called, lenses and stuff like that on the camera for the phone to make it even stronger and stuff. So it was like very cool in its concept, but it went nowhere. And it's just like that kind of speaks, I think, a little bit to how much Apple and like Samsung have just crushed the market with everything, where I mean you can't barely even get any other phone styles. Like I guess you can get a Nokia still, like they
Yeah,
exist.
I guess. I was thinking I had the HTC, which is, that company made great phones too, and that one had like a little kickstand on it. HTC stands for High Tech Company, I believe.
They
It's
got
a
bought
great
out by
name.
Samsung, right?
I have no idea.
I thought they did. That's why I
But I
thought
was,
you didn't see them anymore.
yeah, I actually was thinking about this recently because I still have all my Zunes, and those were also like great hardware, great operating system, the Tiles thing, but they were MP3 players, and
Right? Got
why
crushed
would
by
you have
Apple.
that?
Like,
Yeah.
especially once they started switching away from, like, they just did away with the iPod and made everything a cell phone, basically, at that point. And then switched to, like, streaming music as opposed to downloading it to your Zune or whatever. Like, it just, they made it all in one. And so that killed the Zune, which they were pretty cool. I agree. I think the Zune was pretty neat. I never had anything like that, though. Um,
Well, it had the HD. The HD version was the last one they came out with, and that one was awesome. And it had a screen. You could watch like movie trailers on it, but you would like download the movie trailers from the Zune storefront. Like, it's so weird to think back to that. Like, because and you would pay for the music that is no longer available. I mean, they shut that down years ago. So I've lost all my music.
Yeah. Well,
Whatever I had.
you wonder where like all these companies go with like the pagers and shit that they still make. Obviously, other than blowing up terrorists with them.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess that's
I
why
mean,
they still make them.
they are being made. Yeah, it's weird. It's like third world countries use pagers. What?
Yeah, I would imagine
Um,
it's places where internet isn't widely available.
yeah, I think, and I also was using my Zune for podcasts a lot. And then you think about that too, like podcasts continue to evolve, and there's like new ones that come out, and the medium is interesting, but it always was like when Adam Carolla, I remember starting his podcast, it was like kind of a big deal because he was on the radio, and they just said like, "Nah, we're not paying you anymore." And he's like, "All right, well, I guess I'll just do this then." I mean, those were things that happened that you look back on it, and he's still doing his, obviously, but
Well, it's actually
yeah,
funny that you
podcasts
say that
continue.
because like podcasts, especially then, weren't widely popular like they are today. So
I
it's
think they
very interesting that
were,
you were
but
listening on Zune.
yeah, I think they were, but like they were still niche, and there were certain. I only had like 4 or 5 subscriptions that I cared about. Where now I have 90, I think, and growing, and I love them. You know, they're all great, but yeah, it's just crazy how much it's changed. Even this podcast, actually. So
That's true.
anyway,
I've upgraded. I'm not in the new studio today because it doubles as my guest bedroom and it has not been cleaned up yet. So I have no place to sit in there. So I am back in my original uh, studio today.
hmm well, there's all kinds of things we could talk about that are good, like sports are back finally. That's always nice, but I don't know if you want to go news. I I think we'll do that. So over the weekend, a woman who was a Ukrainian refugee got stabbed in the neck by like a 13-time felon or something in Carolina or Charlotte,
Yep.
Charlotte,
Yep.
and
North Carolina, I believe.
I hate everybody because the right decided that they found a Ukrainian they cared about because it was the optics of it were just right. There was a camera inside the bus, and so there's this picture that's burned in my skull now of this guy getting ready to murder her. And so they were like, why isn't anybody talking about this? And the left did the thing I hate where they just completely ignored it. And so it's like so obvious what's going on. And I don't know.
Well,
This is why I
didn't the
hate everybody.
mayor of Charlotte even say like we shouldn't be focusing on like why this happened or anything, just that it happened and like
You
all this
you
other
are
stuff?
you're
Like,
breaking up a little bit right now. I don't know if the audience can
I'm
hear.
sorry. So, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's in and out. I was gonna leave it, but I
I
just
just
want to
got
let you
something
know.
that said trying to reconnect, so hopefully that is fixed now. Um, so the mayor of Charlotte, I believe, said something along the lines about this, right? Like that we shouldn't be paying attention to it. Essentially, that she doesn't want that to be center of attention for her.
Yeah, and it's not good, dude. Like it's not good for it to be. I don't know that it should be the center of attention. I don't think it's good that it happened and that people are kind of. It's like the new, like the one of the. It's like the latest release of horrible thing, and then everybody is so polarized that they just jump on it and they make it like the number one thing, and it's just everything's bad. Everything's really bad.
Well, of course. I mean, Republicans are going to jump on it and make it seem like there's extreme violent crime in Charlotte, right? And
Of
you know,
course.
everyone obviously everyone's it kind of comes back to uh sending the National Guard into LA, into DC and other places, and there's talk about sending it into Chicago. Like that's why it's front and center for both Republicans and Democrats, right? Because they don't want that. And Republicans are like, well, see, we have violent crime all over the place. We should be nationalizing the National Guards of each state so that we can send them in and help the police. Um, I think it's as we know here, right? Like we always have overcorrections of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there was the defund police movement in what 2020 through
2020.
2022, somewhere around there.
Sure.
And now this is an absolute overcorrection to the defund the police situation where they are sending more people out, National Guard based stuff. And so that's kind of where we sit today. And, this is just one more piece to the puzzle that they're going to use to keep trying to send in National Guard in different places, and make it seem like violent crime is running rampant. So,
I mean, and you get the other side is bad about it too because they say, "Oh, well, crime is down." That's what they'll say. The data shows, and it probably is true that it's down, I guess. But like, you see not only the overcorrection, but like they keep chipping away at whatever I don't know whatever normal was. So I don't know that I think under the his constitutional authority does allow him to do that in DC because it's not a real place, essentially. But
Well, it's like a federalized city, so he has more authority there, technically, to national or to use the National Guard than he does in other states. Um, that's at least what has kind of been stated through the court system, is essentially that he has a little bit more power in DC, and I think even Democrats are saying that and recognizing that that he's more powerful in DC than he is anywhere else, and so they're not inherently opposed to it. The mayor of DC actually came out and was like,
yeah.
crime is significantly lower, and now is that a temporary solution until like the National Guard is gone? Probably.
I mean,
Probably.
I think it does have a shelf life. I don't know that you can like deploy them indefinitely, but it doesn't look good optically. But that's and you know, I kind of go off of that stuff. So it's like I don't know that I love seeing these guys who aren't armed right now, but if they were, that would be bad probably because something bad would happen.
I think it depends, right? Like who you ask. The optics for the Trump administration, they probably like the optics of this, and they like to say, hey, like we did something about crime when Democrats aren't. It's the message that they're sending, really, is what they think is going to help them win. And I don't know. Like, with Chicago, I see videos of people all the time saying, like, oh, do you believe that they should send in the National Guard? And there are people saying, yes, absolutely.
The
And
people that live
even
there.
though Chicago's, mayor and stuff is saying crime is down, like you said, it's kind of about optics, right? Like it was the same way with like with the economy under Biden, right? Like they kept telling you that the economy is fine, and it kind of didn't seem like it to people. And that's what mattered, because even if the economy was fine, people didn't feel like it was fine. And it's the same way with crime. If crime is down but people still don't feel safe, they're going to just assume that those numbers are bullshit
And
ultimately.
and Chicago is the worst example because they kind of don't do anything about it. And I think 2 weeks ago there was like 54 shootings and like 6 deaths in one weekend. And and yeah, you look at that and you're like, what the fuck is going on there? And I don't want the National Guard sent in Chicago. I don't think that makes any sense. But Chicago kind of just it doesn't address the issues itself, and I don't know, man.
It kind of hasn't for a long time, and I think that's what people are kind of seeing. Like it was the same way when Trump got elected. People in Chicago were like, "Yeah, I want to vote for him because Democrats haven't done anything for us here in Chicago and everything else." And obviously, the numbers bear out that way, and I think every state really, like he won in more places than he probably normally would have, because of stuff like that. I mean, people just don't feel safe where they are, and they want somebody to do something about it. Or they finally realized that Democrats weren't helping them in any capacity, so they wanted a change, and that's how we ended up with Donald Trump. I mean, it bears itself out in the election and stuff, and we'll see what happens in 2026 if it starts to swing the other way.
I don't think they're. We talk about this almost every episode that like they just haven't gotten the message yet. And Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, is like rejecting any action at all. He doesn't want any help, and so like the left is allergic to doing anything about it. Like I don't know why. Maybe because their base doesn't want them to, but it's like, man, it's just not a good time.
Well, I
I
think
don't
that
know.
there's a part of the Democratic base where they are in opposition to Trump 100%, no matter what, even if it is
Right.
something that is good or will be helpful to them, they're in opposition to it. And that's problematic. I mean, you're going to just enable him even more by pushing away the parts of the Democratic base that don't believe that you should just fight him tooth and nail. Like, because if he's right, he's right. And, they would maybe be more inclined to vote for whoever the next Republican is if Democrats keep doing that. So it's interesting to see what their philosophy and like lack of awareness and lack of actual um, plan is really, because they don't have one. I mean, the plan for Schumer was what, we got to get his approval rating below 40%. You did that, and you still haven't done anything to change anything else.
Yeah, and they have candidates running like Zoran Mamdani, and he's saying I'm going to make all the buses free. And you think that incident was bad? Just wait until anybody can ride the bus for free, and God only knows what's going to happen there. We don't live there. Those people have it coming, I guess. But
It's funny in
um,
the case of Zoran because he was asked, I think it was on CBS, about his policy of the grocery store chains, like the state
mm,
owned grocery store chain. And the host actually brought up specifically that, like, that hasn't worked anywhere else. It might just be that the government is not good at grocery stores. And he deflected completely to like some like anti-Republican talking point instead of actually defending his position, which I thought was really interesting. But unfortunately for New York, I think they're going to get what they vote for. So
yeah, I think he said something like, well, all the rich people will move out of New York City, and he was like, well, I'll ask them nicely to stay, or like it'll be better if you stay, stay and fight or
well,
whatever.
he's
And
and I would be interested to see what data he's citing, to be honest, because he says that they flee to places that have higher tax brackets, or whatever, or higher like taxation for rich people. He's like, they go to like New Jersey. He's like, we're only talking about raising the taxes by 2% to match like New Jersey, like their taxes and stuff like that. And I'd be interested to see what data he's really citing when he says that, if at all.
yeah, I mean, I guess like that's what the congestion pricing was. Like that they were trying to, you know, get less cars from New Jersey into New York City or whatever it was. And
Well, they're saying now it's working. Like, it's bringing in all this money, like the congestion pricing that's bringing in all this money. That's because you're like fucking people over.
yeah, I'm sure
And
it's working.
they're like, what are you going to do when congestion pricing is like taken away? How are you going to like recoup all of that money? And they have no response for it.
Yeah, it's New York City is fascinating because it's where like all the bad ideas get implemented, so you get to watch it happen. And so yeah, you get a government run grocery store. I wonder how that will go. It might work somehow, but it might still also not be like cost efficient or whatever, and they pay for that, and it's all very interesting. I say let them be like the petri dish of ideas and see how it goes.
Well, it's funny because, as we know and actually have discussed on here before, the profit margins for, when we talked about like price fixing, Kamala Harris like talked about price fixing groceries or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, we talked about how grocery stores only actually earn like 1 to 2%. Like, it's really not a lot of money. Like, they don't make that much money.
I wouldn't fuck with grocery stores because they don't have to be there. They don't have to exist. They don't have the business doesn't have to be there. It's the same thing with like the insurance in California where like some companies were just like, "Nah, we're done." And then they just leave and it's like you can't make them come back. You can't like mandate them to do business in your city or whatever. So
Absolutely.
if you fuck over a grocery store, they might just go, "All right, we'll just fucking leave." And then you're fucked because nobody can buy fucking food. So yeah,
Well,
it's
I don't know if people know this, there's not really anywhere to hunt in New York City unless you want to eat pigeons.
are you
So,
gonna grow food?
or
Yeah,
rats.
I mean you're lucky enough that people are willing to grow food. I mean, it's kind of amazing that it works at all. I think about that a lot because like these farmers, they grow stuff it happen year round. You can go to the grocery store and buy a tomato in the middle of winter, and that's great or whatever. But it's pretty fragile. You shouldn't really mess with it.
I mean, take it from somebody who grows their own food. You have shitty years. Like, I had a really shitty year growing food this year. Like, half of my plants like didn't even grow or like really yield much of anything at all. So, plus in the winter, there's a solid probably 3-4 months out of the year where you can't grow much, like especially if you're doing it outdoor. I mean, you can buy stuff to grow it indoors, but apartments are so small in New York. How are you gonna fit that shit in your apartment? Like, you're not.
It doesn't
So
feel like it should work, right? Like you live in a city that has it's all concrete, and you're like, how do you feed all those people? There's millions of people there, and it's they're kind of lucky that they have it the way it is, and I wouldn't mess with that, but they
you're
will,
right. I
and
I
so
think
let's see.
they take for granted the ability to just walk into somewhere and buy groceries and not like care or wonder where it comes from or how it
That's
got
what,
there.
yeah. That's why COVID was such a big deal for me. It changed my entire worldview because I did take all that for granted, and then I was like, oh shit, like nobody, nobody has to do any of this. Like if you're a farmer and you just say like, you know what, I'm good, I don't need to farm anymore. I might be better off using this for something else, a solar farm or whatever. Like, that's pretty fragile, and people don't have to be a server and give you your food and all this stuff that happened during COVID made me appreciate that people go out of their way in their daily lives to do things for other people, and you could mess that up, and
And it's funny because we're only what 5 years really from the start of COVID,
feels like 500.
and people are just like reverting back, like they're not recognizing how difficult things were under like in COVID and stuff like that, and like how fragile our system really is, and they're just like back to normal, like fuck the system and like all sort of stuff. And it's like you don't really understand what you're saying, and like you want to be gifted all this stuff, but it doesn't really work like that.
Well, we should probably talk about another thing that happened. I'm very interested to hear what you think about this because I don't think we've talked about it, but the Venezuela boat that got what blown up, was it blown up?
Mm-hmm. Oh
um
yeah, and they used like I don't know, like a $10 million+ missile to blow up this like dinghy.
okay, so we've had Barack Obama killed an American citizen. Biden killed a family of like 10 during the Afghanistan withdrawal, and Trump killed 11 people in the ocean. We don't know who they were. We don't know what they were doing. We don't have any information. They have not provided anything. We're supposed to just take their word that they were trafficking drugs or something. I have no idea. They might have been the worst people on earth. But like, what the fuck is going on with this? This isn't good.
I don't know. Like it's interesting because there's just been like this switch, right, from focusing on like China and Russia and stuff like that as like our adversaries to Venezuela of like all places where I mean, don't get me wrong, the economy down there is shit. A lot of people say it's actually America's fault for making it like that. Partially true, for sure. The CIA has been doing shit down in Venezuela, I'm sure, for the last 40 years, 50 years. Um, and this just like huge changeover is like really odd. It feels precursory to like invading Venezuela for some reason, or like I think they talked about what sending troops down there to
I
help
can't.
fight cartels.
Man, I Venezuela is bad and Maduro is bad. He's like a tyrant who stayed in power even though they had a free election. He denied it. He stayed in power. Like they're all bad. But like what on earth do we think we're controlling our own hemisphere by doing anything with Venezuela? Like Venezuela is bad and they have deals with China and Russia and all that. So like you're basically saying like, well, this seems strange that we would move take our eye off the ball with those other two countries, but I mean, they still are like intrinsically connected, and so it's
And
weird.
here's where I think it actually stands. It comes down to oil. Venezuela is oil rich. They
Third
have
most
a
in the world, I think.
Yep, they have a lot of crude oil, and we actually talked about this before because the U.S. was trying to cut deals with Venezuela to get oil here, but the problem is we can't refine it because of how crude it is. Because I guess there's different like viscosities or whatever, and we can't refine it here. So this might have something to do with oil, just like everything else with the U.S., obviously, like, um, it it matters. I think we could see this matter a little bit more. If he puts boots in Venezuela, that's a big no-no in my opinion.
Ugh.
I mean, but how many ships is he going to blow up before something happens? I mean, I'd be interested to see what the Russians and the Chinese do to like back Venezuela, like if the US did something. Um, but I don't know, like, because it would be complete guerrilla warfare. Like, I don't think we would sit here and just like bomb the shit out of Venezuela. That'd be really, really interesting change of pace.
Unprecedented. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like, absolutely.
like I it's this thing where the president puts people in our armed services, puts their lives at risk for whatever political reason, which he could totally do. I don't think blowing up a ship is constitutional. I don't think he has any authority to do that. But um, you know, Biden building a fucking pier and then having some Navy sailor get killed in the process, and Venezuela has a navy, dude. Like they could accidentally escalate in a way that is unpredictable because they're not a strong navy, but they could make a mistake. And
Well,
what
let's
would
not
that mean?
forget that through the AUMF, all things are possible. Okay.
I was wondering about that because I was like, is that within his authority? And it's like, well, if you consider a cartel a terrorist organization, maybe you could spin it that way. It still doesn't
I
make
think
any
that's
sense
the
to me.
big distinction, right? And they have labeled other like gangs and stuff like that and cartels as terrorist organizations, especially in Mexico, because
Which they are.
that could be your pretext, right, for sending American troops into Mexico to deal with the cartels and calling it a national security issue to avoid fentanyl and stuff like that coming over the border, because Mexico has proved to be pretty incompetent when it comes to dealing with cartels. A lot of the politicians get bought off there, or their kids' heads get like sawed off, and like all this other shit, and so they back off because they don't want that stuff to happen. Um, so it could be a pretext for something like that. Venezuela, like I said, it's kind of weird because they've been a non-factor for of what I mean forever, like our entire lives. Like you never really heard of Venezuela except for uh, when people started starving and the food shortages, and you look into the like nationalizing their oil and stuff like that, which is part of the reason why they don't have any money. Um,
Right.
you start looking into stuff like that. Maybe we are just more like well schooled on Venezuela than other people, which but that in my opinion leads into them being that non-factor, and so now that they're just becoming like the ire of Trump is quite a change.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I can't figure it out, and that's why you're saying like it's quite a change because it is really it's a dicey move to make when they aren't a factor and China is, and this might be a reason why he did this, is because China has this trade deal they're trying to get done, and he wants to make it seem like China is not considered a number one threat, even though they are. And so maybe you like throw them a bone and say like, oh, we're just not going to really worry about you right now. And I mean that's the only answer I could see for it, for any of it.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that. I was catching a little reverb of what I was saying. I can hear it
I
like
I
through.
can't hear it.
I
I can't hear
I
it if
could
it's on
almost
your
like
end.
I'm almost hearing back what I'm saying, but through your computer, it sounded like
Could be possible. Let's see.
it was happening. It I can yeah, there it goes. I can kind of hear
It's
it.
not on. It's not on my end. I don't think. Think you could continue with it like that?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't bother me. I was just wondering if you'd hear it back at all.
I'm not seeing it pop up on the little bars that inside baseball. You know that little noise thing.
Yep.
I don't see it on there.
Okay, that works for me. No worries. We'll keep going.
Um, where should we go next? Oh, Israel. They have a final deal, which is like I think they're gonna. The deal is give all the hostages alive and dead back to Israel, and Israel gives back like 3,000 terrorists, which just seems like I don't know, man. But anyway, and that they would pull out of Gaza City, which I think is now like 40% contained. Do you have thoughts on this?
That's never going to happen. Uh,
I don't think Hamas would do it.
Israel also has no interest in actually striking a deal. Let's be
I
honest
oh they
about that.
do. No,
They
the
no, they do
politicians
not.
might not. Netanyahu might not, but the people there are sick of
Yes,
this and they
the
want
people
everybody
there
back.
are. But it's the same in Ukraine. Actually, support for the war against Russia has dramatically fallen off amongst the actual people, and but not with the politicians. The politicians have no desire to make a deal with Hamas. Um, they already have plans for like indefinite occupation, really, of Palestine. And that's their going to be their ultimate goal. I mean, just hearing from obviously Crystal Ball and Sagar and Breaking Point stuff like that, they basically have made plans to just be there indefinitely and kind of rule over Palestine. They're using words like ethnic cleansing, stuff like that.
No.
Obviously, I know, and it's odd to see because there have been plans in place before, just from what I hear, like that Israel's like, here's a deal, and then when Hamas wants to accept it, they add stuff on to make the deal impossible, and things like that. I I don't see a deal being reached here. I really don't. I mean,
Why would Hamas do that? Hamas has done something brilliant. All right. They have gotten people like the idiots at Breaking Points to spread their propaganda, and they've done it effectively. And they have a lot of support with very dumb people. So, and they've actually kind of won a PR war. And yeah, maybe if they, I'd be shocked if they did. I hope they do. I would, I think that'd be good. But they're not. Israel doesn't want to occupy that fucking place. They don't want to. What they want is a 3 mile buffer zone around the place so that they can not have any of this shit happen again. And they probably will get that. It'll be like a DMZ. But like, why the fuck does everybody think that Israel wants to occupy that stupid, dumb place? If there's nothing there, it's just concrete.
why do you think that they don't? I mean, they've kind of proven it time and time again, right? The West Bank keeps kind of expanding, like Israeli settlements in West Bank like keep expanding,
Okay, I grant you
to the
that.
point where
Yes.
they actually do go in and they kick people out of their homes and they take them over for Israelis. That's very real. So what makes you think that they don't? Like you said, I think today you mentioned that there was like another terrorist attack by Hamas.
Yeah.
Now, was that in Gaza, or
That was
was
the
that
West Bank, I think.
okay? So, well, you said they came from the West Bank, right? Like that stuff's not going to stop happening. And you said something like, "Why doesn't Israel have like a way of stopping these?" They do. We've actually talked about this. They kind of knew about October 7th, like that there was a possibility that it was going to happen, and they seemed to kind of let it happen, right? Like, think of how good Israeli intelligence is considered. Like, they're considered better intelligence than US intelligence. And if their intelligence is that good, they knew about October 7th and they let it happen. Be- could be that they wanted to invade Palestine, like, which again, whatever, like if that's your MO, fine. You know how I stand on this. I just don't want to fund it. Do whatever you want. It's not my business. But that's there's no incentive for them to stop because we will keep funding them and they want to keep funding, like they want that to keep coming. It's the same reason, and I was actually for like the bombing of Iran and everything to do that, but like how quickly we jumped into that, you know what I mean? Like, see that echo's coming back, but it and I'm seeing it pop up on your screen.
Maybe it is me.
maybe your headphones are too loud or something. I'm hearing it. I'm not sure. Um, but ultimately, like the U.S. jumped into that deal and attacked Iran and stuff like that because we just take whatever Israel says at face value. And so they have no incentive to stop at all, especially Netanyahu, as we've discussed, has no incentive to stop because he wants the power to keep going. And he knows that the government was going to probably oust him after the war is over, but he can just stay indefinitely until it stops. So there's no point in him signing a peace deal.
I'll try to mute myself for you. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's the first time that's happened with hearing myself come through your mic. It's really weird.
Well, we like to have new problems every time we do this. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's my argument, and you could be the best intelligence agency on Earth and get 99% out of 100, right? And then this happened, and it's like, yes, there's somebody fucked up on October 7th, and I do grant you that. I also grant you that there are settlers that are radicals in that are Israeli that do take over. I think they call them like the hilltop boys or something. There's like there are people that like they go and squat in physical locations in the West Bank and kind of like harass the locals. So it kind of goes both ways there. But you know, I don't know what else you do. You have Hamas, you have to get rid of them. You can't just live there next to them. And that's where I just say like, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is do whatever you want because Hamas is just going to be there, and so kill them or get your people back or create a buffer zone. But I don't know.
But if you
I'm
can't
just
if you can't live next to them, your only option is to get all of them out, right? Or leave Israel. And you're not gonna leave Israel, right? So like your only option is to displace the 2 million or something people that live there because you don't want to live next to them. So kind of what you said, like they can't live next to them, so they have no other option but to do what they're doing.
yeah. I mean, there is one side here that I think is the bad guys, and there's the other side that's the good guys. I don't think the Palestinians. They have no desire to do anything but murder Israelis, and they've been doing it for so long. And it's like they're not going to suddenly like build greenhouses and have an economy. They're just going to keep doing this, and it's just like the other side is like this, technological, juggernaut, and they're the size of like whatever. They're tiny. Tel Aviv is tiny, but like they're a tech hub for the Middle East, and it's just like I'm so tired of hearing about the breaking points people or whatever, whoever says it, just saying like, oh, they're gonna occupy the blah blah blah. It's like, who cares? Like what is it? Why does that matter to me? I just don't get it.
I only care because of like the obviously the funding situation. And then to bring it to I guess a lighter note, right? We saw the plans get released for for basically like Gaza Lago that the Trump administration is kind of backing away from, right? Um, where they basically get rid of everybody in Palestine and turn the whole place into like a New York City kind of like deal with beaches and shit, and they kind of supposedly backed away from it.
It's pathetic because like every there's a reason why everybody it's so easy for everybody to just say like, oh, they're doing a bad thing. Nobody else has to deal with them. Like Israel has to deal with them. That's their only option. And everybody else could go, oh, you could turn it into a Gaza Lago, or you could build a pier. Oh, we're gonna have aid. Everybody in the Gaza Strip wants to kill other people. That's all they want to do. And they'll shoot aid workers and they'll shoot people trying to give them food. And they'll shoot each other. Happens all the time. Like Hamas won't even let people leave Gaza City. And so everybody else just sits back and goes like, you know,
Well,
that's just
first of all, we already tried to build a pier there, and it didn't work so well.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like it got somebody killed. Like these people cannot be negotiated with, and it drives me crazy to hear people going, "Oh, it's a genocide." It's not a genocide. They're dropping pamphlets saying like, "You better get out of here because we're going to do this next," and they've been doing it for 3 years, and everybody and do kids die? Yeah, I get that, but
I
it's
think
either
they
your kids or their kids, I
I
guess.
think I think Israel even said, I forget where, it might have been in Gaza City. They were like, we're just assuming everyone left is a terrorist at this point.
I'm
Um,
sure there's an element of that that's true. I'm sure there's a lot of civilians still there because they won't let them leave. Hamas uses human shields, and so what choice do they have? They don't. I don't know.
no, they don't. But like I said, I just don't think that there's going to be a peace deal at all. It's kind of the same thing with Ukraine and Russia, right? Like there was supposed to be a ceasefire deal, and then Russia's like, well, no. Like, why would I do a ceasefire deal? The only thing we'll do is a peace deal. And Trump backed off of the ceasefire thing. And now Russia's like, okay, well, if your thought process is essentially that Ukraine's going to have to give up some of the territory that we've taken, let's take more of it. Because
Uh,
then when we do strike a peace deal, we'll cede some territory back to them, but we're still going to have more than we had before. Um, and as we know, there was a peace deal put on the table in Ukraine back in 2022, I think. Right, we're 3 years into this now, um, and Boris Johnson went there and completely said no, we're not doing that.
well,
And the
okay.
U.S. bought into that. So
I'll give you the difference there, right? Like Europe can have a say in it because Europe is basically giving weapons to Ukraine, and it does matter to them because it's on their continent. Israel's a little different, and I think that everybody seems to forget, and they still continue to forget, that the guy invaded another country, and that is crazy. And it was going to be an easy thing for him, and it didn't work out. And Ukraine fought back, and now we've invited this guy to Alaska and got nothing for it. He just sent like 700 drones over to civilian targets in Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't target civilians in Russia. They target like energy infrastructure and things like that. And yeah, I mean, Russia's like never going to stop and maybe put sanctions on them. Putin plays Trump so well. He really does. Cuz like nothing ever happens.
oh, I don't think you're wrong about that at all. But the fact of the matter is, if the Ukrainians are tired of the war, it shouldn't fucking matter what Europe says or the US says or anything else. If they are tired of it and they want a deal, you must strike a deal as the leader of that country. Your pride doesn't matter
I agree
because
with you. I
you're
do agree with you.
they'll fucking get you out of there in a heartbeat. Like, well, once you decide to reinstate elections, then you will be ousted. Like if they will get rid of him eventually, and I personally I think that's what Putin really wants. Like he doesn't
Uh,
necessarily need to take territory, right? He just needs to keep the war going long enough until the Ukrainians are like, we're done with Zelensky, and we're finished with it. We don't care, because what Putin really wants is a pro-Russian government reinstalled in Ukraine. That's what they
bingo.
had in 2024 or 2014, sorry. That's what they had in 2014 when the US decided to like help overthrow that government, which caused the invasion of Crimea. Like that is definitely what happened there. And so they want a pro-Russian government reinstalled there. They just have to withstand long enough, and they can, until the Ukrainians are just sick and tired of it. And we're seeing that 3 years on. So,
Yeah, you are right over the target on this poor analogy, but yeah, that's what Russia has always done for 150 years. They just want influence over other countries that they can control, and they want a Belarus in Ukraine, and they might get it, and
sure.
it might
And,
end up looking good for them that they did what they did, even if it destroyed their economy and I don't
but
know
see, here's
whatever
the
else.
here's the thing is, I don't think it has. Like a lot of people are talking about that, right? Like Russian sanctions and everything else, but their economy hasn't been hurt by sanctions
I think it's getting
because
worse.
be, dude, I think their GDP grew like more than it had in previous years, like prior to the war.
But they're running
Like,
out of gas. They are running out of gasoline now. Like this month. I don't know why.
sure, but that's why they're friends with Venezuela. Look at BRICS and how that's all going, right? Like, they're strengthening the BRICS nations as a whole.
we are too, though. We are actively helping those BRICS nations by what
Oh,
we
for
do.
sure. For sure. And it's only going to help Russia. There doesn't seem to be any level of sanctions that we can levy on them that are actually going to matter because
And China's going to send them drones and stuff.
right. And not to forget that the sanctions also exclude certain things because it's something that like the Europeans need. Like obviously they need Russian gas and like all this other shit, right? Because they have the pipelines for it. Um, let's not forget that underwater pipeline that the Ukrainians blew up, you know? Um, it's just like the sanctions aren't working the way that I think people anticipated and like absolutely crippling their economy. Like the ruble is actually still doing fairly well, I believe. So I don't know how this actually ends up playing out. I think we're in for I think probably at least another 2 years of this until the Ukrainians are like, we're done. Like we're absolutely done. I mean, they're conscripting 60-year-old men and stuff like that into their military. You know, they're trying to pay the younger generation to fight because they were keeping them out of conscription. And now it's at a point where it's untenable for them unless actual bodies are sent to Ukraine to fight against Russia. They're not going to be able to withstand the next probably 2-3 years.
That's the Russian thing, man. They never run out of
Yep.
meat to send.
Oh my God, they did
And
it in what World War II, where it was just like they would send you out without a gun to fire, and then just
pick
like
up the gun from the
pick up the
next
gun
guy.
from
Yeah.
the guy next to you is gonna die, so just pick that one up. And that's what they do. They're a meat grinder, man, and they just keep sending you, keep sending you, keep sending you, and
It's funny
that's
because I've been going through this book on Whitaker Chambers, who was he was a communist sympathizer who sent secrets from Washington D.C. to Russian agents, and then he ended up falling out from the whole thing. He became disillusioned with communism, and he ended up becoming a writer or editor at Time magazine. And eventually, he would go on to the House Un-American Committee, whatever it was, and he would give them all this information about other spies within the U.S. government, and that's what the Red Scare was all about. And Alger Hiss getting caught and Donald Hiss getting caught, and that's where Nixon basically made his bones or whatever. But like going back even to then, they were always trying to get Russian agents to do subversive shit in other governments, and that has never stopped. They never stopped doing it, and they will never stop. It's pretty remarkable. I know you're going to say like the CIA does it too. I agree, but boy, Russia just they just have a they're just like a blight on the world, basically. A bunch of backwater alcoholics who can never stay out of anybody else's business.
the thing is that they're relatively good at it too.
Yeah, well,
But
those
also the
ideas are infectious.
dude, almost everyone does it. I mean, even the Israelis here, like they're always trying to put people into power to help Israel and stuff like that. And that, as you can see, like amongst basically both parties, if you don't support Israel, you're getting primaried and you're getting out of there. Like,
But
you
that's
know,
changed for the left, and that's why like the moment now is so dangerous, because the left isn't saying no, we don't want to support Israel. They're saying we don't like Jews. I mean, that's kind of Zoran Mamadadi's whole thing, right? So like that's the difference, I think, with the parties, is like the left no longer feels any allegiance to Israel or support of Israel, even though it's the only democracy in the Middle East. Um, they just don't like the Jews.
well, I think the thing with Zoran is he actually received quite a bit of support from the Jewish community. Um,
Well, that I mean, that's whatever. I have no, I can't render judgment on that, but I think he's just like a symptom of the party that booed Israel in the DNC in 2014. 2012. I think it was 2012, and they were doing the party platform, and they booed it with like a voice vote, and the guy's like, "Oh, we support it still." Like,
Well, centrist Democrats are they won't even support Mamdani at all. Like, you're not seeing Chuck Schumer, you're not seeing Hakeem Jeffries. Like, these guys aren't out there. Like, the perceived leadership of the Democrats aren't supporting Mamdani. They I think they understand at least that pushing too far left is what killed them absolutely in 2024.
it's
And
not
so
going to kill. It'll
they
kill
don't
them
want to do that.
nationally. It won't kill them with the actual leaders of the party, AOC and Bernie Sanders, who are there endorsing him, taking pictures, and it's all very
Of
nice.
course.
And yeah. Um, okay, so we tackled that one. Ukraine, I think you're right. I don't know if it'll be 2 years. Maybe it'll be a year. It feels like we'll be talking about it in a year, no matter what, though.
I think so, because obviously Trump was like, "Oh, dude, I'll get it done in 24 hours." That's really not the case. It's not going to happen. It obviously wasn't the case, and I I just think that he's eventually going to be like hands off, like whatever. Like now it's not our problem, but he has shored up funding to Ukraine and stuff like that. Like that hasn't stopped. So, but I don't know what his ultimate game plan is. Like that's why everyone's saying like, oh, he kind of like licks the boot of Vladimir Putin, but he's still sending money to Ukraine. So like if he was completely a bootlicker uh for Putin, why would he still be sending arms and money to Ukraine?
Because the European leaders are smart. They've learned the lesson. They because they bootlick him, and he'll do what they want because they all come over to Washington D.C. and they sit like little children in front of the president's desk, and they're all like, "Sir, this is they just tell him what he wants to hear, and that's good enough for him." It's not really a foreign policy. It's more of just every day we wake up and there's something different. Today it was Venezuela, but
But you know what? That is true of this administration, and I guess you have to say that it's anything but boring because it's a new direction every single day. It's
I
you
don't think it
know,
works, but I can only sit on the sidelines and say like that seems bad or whatever. But when you're out here trying to change it to like the Department of War, which it was called like a long like that's something like that's a fight they chose to pick, and I don't know why. It's like wasting
I mean,
political capital.
if he wants to change it to the Department of War, why fight it? Like, is that where
Well,
you need to spend your, like you said, your political capital is like arguing about this? The Gulf of America thing. Like, do you need to spend your energy fighting something so arbitrary? No. Like, you should be fighting those battles like elsewhere where it actually makes a difference politically. But, like, I mean,
but
changing a
as
map, not
yeah, I
really.
mean, I don't care about Gulf of America. Call it whatever the fuck you want. But when it comes to like the name change, like we as neutral parties talking about this should be honest and say like this is a huge waste of fun of money. It's a waste of time. It's what do you do when you do that? You have to update the letterheads of everything, and you have to change the signs of everything, and for what? I don't and I don't even know if he could do it. I think he could call it the Department of War, but he can't like it's Congress is the one who named it Department of Defense. So I don't even know how that works. It's
Well,
just
I think it was named the Department of War,
they
and
changed it in
and
like the
then it was
50s.
changed. Yeah.
And
So
and maybe it should be the Department of War because that's kind of what it does. I mean, that I get that. That argument actually makes sense to me. What else does it do? It doesn't defend it. It's war.
yeah,
But
wages war.
to go for that name change, just that's the kind of stuff that I'm like,
Well, it's dumb. It's really stupid. Democrats are fighting the good fight. In terms of, I think one of my favorite ones right now is the gerrymandering stuff. That like, obviously, like with Texas and everything changing its seats to where like
uh,
Austin, Texas is voting like with the most rural parts of like Texas, where they're 100% Republicans. Like I think is really funny. Um, but what's equally funny is for some of the most gerrymandered states in the country, in like California and Illinois and stuff like that, to come out and complain about it and act like their shit don't stink is
Oh
just
yeah.
like the most ridiculous fucking thing I can think of. Like every state's gerrymandered, okay? And all of the I think all of the swing states are like considered some of the most gerrymandered states like in the country. And here we are bitching about, Texas, which is red. I mean, other than
I
like Austin,
plead.
Texas, like it's red.
Yeah, I plead for people to go back 20 years, recent times. Gerrymandering has like been going on forever, and nobody. I get it. When your side does it, it's okay, and when the other side does it, it's not. But like, you can't gerrymander harder, and you can't
Right.
gerrymander in California because we passed a law you can't do it in mid cycle. So like, yeah, what they're panicked about is not the gerrymandering. They're going to lose seats because people are moving out of those states, and they're worried about it. And it's a long term strategy for them, and they have to fight it. They have to do what they do, but it is embarrassing. I'm glad we talked about gerrymandering a little bit because yeah, if you look at some of these maps, specifically in Illinois, it's spaghetti, and
And so
it's ridiculous.
here's a question for you, because obviously what the Trump administration is pushing is to not allow illegals to be counted on the census, right? Which
Mm,
leads into gerrymandering and all this other stuff, right? Like
sure.
it's definitely part of it. Um, do you believe that people who cannot vote, i.e., illegals, should be counted in representation in government when they can't vote for that representation?
I've never thought about it. My hot take is you would want to count them because not everybody's illegal and not everybody can vote. People who are here legally can't vote, perhaps. What do you think?
It's weird because to me, like, they should be counted in the census. You want to know how many people are here, resources, everything. Obviously, there are some programs that illegals can have access to for funding and things of that nature. You want to know how many people are in the country. Um,
Do I think they should count towards house seats? I guess not,
yes,
but I don't
because
know how you would do that.
if they cannot vote, then should they be counted towards the population in the sense, like they should almost have like it's like a double census, right? You should know how many people are there, but maybe know how many people are illegal, and then you would subtract out the illegals, and that would determine your actual representation. Because they can't vote for the representation, so why should there be more representation for people who can't vote for them? it
That's
it
why I don't think it
it
works
seems like a
because
logical question, but I'm not sure that that would work in practice. Like,
yeah, I'm thinking about like you've got a census, so you've got this group of people, and then you could go, well, we could just do registered voters. Like that's how we know if somebody can vote, but not everybody's registered to vote, but they could, and they have the right to if they're American citizens. So I don't know how you would do it.
that's what I
And I
mean.
don't,
Like,
and you have to have people self-identify as legal immigrants, and I don't know how that works.
yeah, that's true. I mean, what if they don't take the census? I
They
think
probably
that's
don't.
the thing. Like, they I can't tell you when I've taken a census.
I take the census as like I think it's good to do it because I think it's good for any number of reasons we've already mentioned. You know, you want to know how many people are going to be on Social Security or whatever, you know, whatever the data says, because it's real. The data matters because that's how you project out. I mean, we do it every 10 years. You have to plan off of something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I agree. I think it's interesting when it comes to gerrymandering and stuff like that, how that would work. Just because if you say illegals can't vote and they can't, why should they be counted under representation? I think that argument generally makes some sense because you're not passing laws for illegal immigrants. You're passing laws for American citizens. So I guess the argument, the argument would be made really for uh, Republicans in this way is that their argument would be that Democrats are just flooding in illegals into these states just to get
Yeah.
more seats and stuff like that. And I don't think that's inherently wrong. Um,
I
in terms of like that it's not happening. I definitely think that does happen. But then they complain when the busload of them show up to Martha's Vineyard and shit
yeah,
like
certain
that. Like
places it's not
you
cool.
know, yeah,
But
certain places it's not cool. But I think it's kind of I see what Republicans are saying, how that happens, but I also see the value in obviously counting everybody. That makes sense. But
well, like you said, it's good for them to say it, right? Because like it's easy for them to say like, "Oh, this is why it's bad." The problem is that Republicans aren't clever enough to devise a strategy
right.
beyond that, and
And it
that's
is
where we're
important to
at.
note that the Constitution states persons. They don't say citizens. You're not
Yeah.
counting the citizens.
Well,
You're
yeah,
counting the
I would
people who
want to
live
know.
there.
Yeah, I mean, because not everybody's a citizen, but not everybody's illegal. Like
Right.
that's the yeah. It's just not something that I think can be solved in 4 years,
Right.
like what they want to do.
And that so for me the question really just bears out like should they be counted towards representation or not should they be counted or not, but should they be counted towards representation, because I would be interested to see those states if you take those seats away because of that representation, how fucking red it becomes.
Well, it would change California. I don't know.
But then that begs the question, right? Like if it becomes red because you take away that illegal population, why are they blue now? Does that mean the illegals are voting?
I would assume in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco, yes. I don't know why or how. I don't live there, so I don't know. But if you have a person who's volunteering on election day to work at a booth and they have a certain ideological view, then they probably turn the other way and just say like, yeah. But like when you like, I know everybody says California and all that. Like there are laws in place when you sign this shit that says like if you do this and you're not supposed to, you are breaking the law. It's just do they enforce it or not?
Right. So, but then you would be speaking to mass voter fraud.
Maybe there's not as much voter fraud as we think. I don't know.
Well, there's definitely not as much voter fraud as Republicans make it out to seem, but it's not 0%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
that's
not
the
an
middle
absolute
ground.
zero. That's for sure.
But you
Um,
can't in politics. You have to escalate every
of course.
contradiction. So it doesn't really work for normal people. Yeah, you and I can say like, yeah, it's not zero, and it's probably not as much. But I don't know that it matters. Like I said, they've got 4 years, and they're going to take this moment to do that, or they're going to tackle that fight. The fights that they choose don't make any sense to me.
I think we all just need to remember that we have 3 more years of Donald Trump. It's not
Three
even
and a
been a year.
half.
Yeah, it's not even been a year, and so I wonder if Democrats can keep up fighting.
That's
I
why you have to have principles, and you can't choose sides, or you shouldn't. At least we shouldn't, because um, you see this meme going around. It's like, oh, he's passed more executive orders than any other president during this time, and they're like, that's historic. And it's like, boy, that's a real shitty precedent, dude. Like, because they're
yeah.
gonna hate it when the next guy does it.
Well, and that's always been my argument, right? Like I've long said I hate executive orders. Like we've ruled by executive order now because Congress they shriveled up their nutsacks and fucking went home. Like to avoid releasing the Epstein files and shit like that. Like they don't actually want to govern, and that's long been said about Republicans in general, that like they like to win but they don't like to govern.
Yeah,
And I think that does make some sense. This bears out a little bit.
yeah.
um
Democrats love to govern. That's
right.
like
And
that's what they love to do.
now it's like really interesting to see, since they have a supermajority and they're still not doing anything like with it. They passed the one big beautiful bill, and I can imagine that that's likely going to be the one big piece of legislation that we see over this next 4 years.
Correct.
I don't
Yeah.
think we're going to see much else.
Well, I do wonder because you live through history, and then at a certain point, there's eras. You look back on it and you go, "Wow, that was crazy." Um, I keep wondering when that time's going to be where you look back and go, like, that was a crazy fucking year right there. But I guess we're moving on, or things are settling down, and it doesn't seem like that's happening yet.
Nope.
I don't think we're
Democrats just keep
close.
raising the alarms. Again, we have 3.5 more years of Donald Trump in office. So Democrats are just going to be screeching for the next 3.5 years.
Some stuff they should screech at, but
Oh, absolutely.
they don't do it very well.
But not changing Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. See, pick the battles, right? Like
Yeah, you got to pick the right battles.
if that's what you're complaining about, like just like they had the RFK hearings the other day.
Ugh,
I
I
forget
hate that guy.
I forget exactly what it was, but like um, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders were complaining that he like fired or had a lady resign, even though they didn't want her there in the first place. And Elizabeth Warren said, "Well, I didn't want her because I thought she would just bend the knee to you. And now that she hasn't, of course we want her in there." Like, come on, no,
They do the same thing with the Supreme
no.
Court. They're like, they just, it doesn't matter. Like, you could be the most highly qualified candidate for the Supreme Court, and if you're just, they just fearmonger about it.
And ironically enough, the Supreme Court has generally been on the side of Democrats recently, especially with like a lot of things that have happened. Like the
Mostly,
Supreme
yeah.
Court has been ruling against the Trump administration quite frequently. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah. Unpopular opinion: the conservative justices on the Supreme Court are actually like small c conservatives, and they don't. That's why you can always predict which way the court's going to go on certain things when it comes to those three judges that are on the left, because they just they're almost locked in. I mean, Kagan's can go either way, but the other two are just stupid. Anyway, um, what else you want to talk about?
let's end on a positive note. Hockey is almost back, buddy.
Yes, hockey and football are back.
Flyers rookie camp is this week, and then they have actually 2 games this week, rookie games, where the Flyers rookies will play like the Rangers rookies and stuff like that. I believe the
Cool.
Penguins also do something with like Columbus, and so hockey is super close to being back.
Well, it's been a nice, fun summer with the Stanley Cup, but Matthew Tkachuk is injured. He had surgery, so he won't be playing until like January. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. They've done well without him, so it's not the
Well,
worst thing. But
with the cap going up and then his money coming off the books for long-term injured reserve, they actually probably have the room to do something in order to keep their team afloat until he comes back. But then
oh,
you got
I
to
don't. I
obviously
think they'll be
watch
fine.
what happens when he does come back. So we'll see, man. I'm excited for this season. I know the Flyers are going to suck. I'm hoping that they suck, but we'll see.
You got to stop hoping every year for that, because eventually they're going to have to do good again.
And I look forward to that time. Now is not it at all.
Do you know? This is kind of a random question. Did Mitch Marner stay, or did he get traded?
Oh no, he technically got traded, but it was like a sign and trade kind of deal. A lot of it was to like avoid tampering charges that they're saying is like kind of the rumor that's going around. But he's in Vegas now, because the rich get richer
Oh,
in Vegas apparently. So,
oh,
um,
yeah, I
I mean,
didn't know that.
they gave up virtually nothing, but he also signed like a massive deal there with I think over 12 million, might be 13 million a year.
Man, that's wild. I movie wise, do you watch 28 Years Later just now, right?
I haven't finished it yet.
Okay,
You know how I
where?
watch things in pieces, so
Uh huh. Well, I kind of do that too. Where'd you stop at?
um the kid is out with his mom. He's trying to take her to the
Uh
doctor. So I'm right at that part.
okay,
Um
that's the turn. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I'm
So
excited
I'm
for you to see
right
the second
there.
half. Yeah, that's the turn. That's where the movie goes like, I'm gonna get fucking crazy. It's I love that movie. We haven't done a movie checkup in a while. I thought that movie was great. I can't wait for the second one. Because the way it ends is so unhinged. A lot of stuff in that movie is unhinged, but the end of it was just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe how quickly they're releasing the next one. I mean, it's coming pretty fast. So I think
They
it's
shot
in
them
like
back to back.
November, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't watched. Eddington, 5 star, highly recommend. I'm going off my letterbox.
I'm gonna
It
have to
was
get into that
amazing.
one.
It was everything I could have hoped for a movie that's about a time period of with COVID where it doesn't pull any punches and nothing is sacred.
Fucking
And the
Ari
other,
Aster, right?
yeah, dude, that movie goes all, it does all the things. That's one movie where I was like, I wish this was longer. I never say that, and I'm like, this movie could have been an hour longer, and I would have been totally happy. Um, I also watched Jurassic World Rebirth. Gave that 1 star in my letterbox. That is one of the worst movies I've seen of the year. It is so bad.
I have not seen any of the newer ones. I tried to watch the first of Dave's three that all
Yes.
have Chris Pratt in them, right?
Yeah.
Um, I tried to watch the first one and found it very boring, and I fell asleep. So I just haven't even bothered with the other ones. I just watched Ballerina the other day, John Wick film. I
Yes.
liked it a lot. There was some very inventive kills in it and stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed Ballerina. It was pretty good.
I also watched the Phoenician Scheme. I thought that was pretty good.
I
I give it
started
pretty
watching
good.
that, and I didn't get too deep into it. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. I love Benicio del Toro, so
What's the Michael Cera steals the show in that movie. He
really,
is excellent. Yeah, I loved his character in that movie. I also have. I think we're almost. These are almost all the new ones. I like watch older shows or movies, so I don't have a lot of time for newer stuff. But
that movie Friendship that you told me about just showed up on HBO, so I'm gonna have to get into that because I know you
I
said it was really good.
I think it's still my number one. I might put that in Eddington in the
Interesting,
mix.
interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm interested
Um,
to see what our top 15 is going to look like in January because I think it's going. You and I usually have some overlap, and then they're fairly different. But I think we're going to have probably a wildly different top 15 this year.
Probably more than last year because we had a lot of the hits on this podcast, particularly Aliens, which we have to mention every show by law. So, and I watched the Cronenberg movie, The Shrouds, which was nearly there. He's too old, I think, is the problem because he was like he's trying to get into like AI and like other stuff, but he doesn't really understand it. So it's just barely there.
Yeah, you had mentioned that movie not too long ago, and so I'm gonna get into that. I think it's available to rent. It's probably like $6 or something at this point. So I think I'm gonna rent it if it didn't come out on like HBO or something. The problem is like, right? So I bought 28 years later, and now all of a sudden it's gonna be on Netflix in like 2 weeks. So I'm kind of like pissed. I spent the money. I mean, at least I'll have it, but um, it's just like things are. Every time I go to buy something, 2 weeks later it's on streaming. So I have to.
Yeah, it's dicey. I've just committed to just buying the movie on Amazon, and when it comes out on streaming, it's like, I missed it. Whatever. I just accepted that fact. Um, yeah, you got to watch if you're gonna watch anything for this year's list that you haven't seen so far. 28 years later is definitely on there, but you're already taking care of that. But Eddington is a must watch.
Yeah, I wanted to watch that one. Like that was a movie I hadn't even heard about. Like because I always do at the end of the year a list to watch for the next year, but not everything's like set in stone at that time. And so Eddington like wasn't even on the list. I didn't even know what it was, and then all of a sudden I saw a trailer for it, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm even gonna say this. I'm probably gonna rewatch it at some point. Like I don't usually rewatch movies, and that's how much I loved it. It's so fucking entertaining.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I guess we should get out of here, man.
All right, buddy. I'll catch you later.
All right. Bye.
See ya.